So hope you're having a great Wednesday morning so far. Today we're going to be talking to you about the March 2020 upgrade. We are going to be doing a Q&A session at the end, so if you can hold on to your questions, you can post them throughout, but we will be answering them at the end of the webinar. As well, we are going to be sending out a recording of the webinar following the presentation. So if you look out in your inbox, you'll be getting that shortly. And I'm going to pass it over to my host, Mark.
Cool. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first upgrade of 2020. I'm going to start by walking through what's on the wiki, and I'll go into a little more depth. So I'm just going to wiki.smartsimple.com, where you can always see what's the latest upgrade. So the schedule is here of all of our upgrades, so if you want to know when the next upgrade will be, it is there, as well as when your particular instances are upgraded. All instances backups are, if you're in a shared hosting, your backup version of your instance will get upgraded weeks in advance so that you can see all the changes beforehand. If you haven't already seen it, I highly recommend watching the 5-minute upgrade highlight video. Not everyone can attend this webinar and see it a little more in depth, so this is a nice overview you can share with your community. It'll give you the basics of what's in there, what to expect. As Sarah mentioned, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through things. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of stuff. If there's anything you have a question about or you want to learn a little more about, just type that message in the chat, and at the very end, we'll go through and answer each question. But this way, we'll run through everything, and if anyone needs to go off and doesn't want to listen to the question and answer, they don't have to. All right, so all questions, just post them in the chat, and we will get to them once we're done running through this. So first thing to note is the number formatting. So when let me just log in to my instance. All right, so all the numbers in the system, previously you had a setting under your user setting where you could say, I want my numbers to appear in a specific format. That didn't count for currencies, but it was for regular numbers. After this upgrade, your numbers will be based on the language you select. So English will get the comma separator for thousands, the decimal separator for anything maybe on the decimal. French will get a comma for the decimal separator here, and Spanish will get this kind of format. Now, if it's a currency, it will remain unchanged. So if, for example, if it's a euro or, let me show you that, if it's a euro or a US dollar, you're going to see it formatted like this, just as it always has. It's just the numbers that are not currencies that will be based on the language. The only caveats to that, of course, is euro, depending on your language and the currency selected, you will get different formats. Let me just show you real quick. The language selector is here if you've never seen it, so if you're changing between languages. And what I'm referring to on the currency, so here's a field that's set to currency. So let me just open that up to show you. So what I'm talking about here is a field, this text box number type field, and I've set the number format to currency, and I've picked a currency. So if I picked a currency, it's going to show in that currency. Otherwise, it's going to use my language setting to dictate how that will be displayed. The next thing, so if I go to my user profile here, and I edit it, I can see I've got a send password and a set password. Now previously, the set password was controlled by a role permission, and the send password, I believe, was not. So after this upgrade, that role permission is now going to do the send password instead of the set password. So if you have a program manager that wants to send passwords to your clients, they'll be able to send the password. But for security reasons, we don't want everyone being able to set people's passwords. And the permission for that, let me just show you that. I'm going to go to the roles, user roles. So I'll just look at my system administrator. So if you go to the system, well, it could be any role you're on. You can see here that you're able to set, so that's, I'm able to give someone a specific role. I'm able to activate that user so they'll be able to log in. And then here's the able, used to be able to set password, it's now able to send password. So people who are able to set will now be able to send instead. Your system administrators will be able to set the password still. All right, so next I want to show you the association entry view. So we have, what association entry view is it's like adding or associating a contact or an applicant to a record, such as, say, maybe a grant application. So here I am in a level 1 at the UTA. This is my grant, and I'm going to click on a contacts. So there's 2 ways that you can associate people. I'm just going to clear these people out. So now I've got no one associated with this record. And this is the new association view. So when I click on this, and let's say I want to pick a couple people, I can change my list view, I can do all my searching, and then I pick a role for these people. I want these to be associated as maybe co-applicants or something. And there they are. And now I'm going to pick some more people, and I'm going to make them reviewers, and I've added them against the record, and then I can close it. So now I can see I added 3 applicants and I added 3 reviewers to this record. So this is the new style association view. And what changed in this was we're not automatically closing this Modal window. You can pick your list views. I can create a new user from here if they don't exist in the system. And the role to assign moved down. Now by contrast, let me show you the existing one. Oops. All right, so by contrast, here's the existing one. So let me remove these people. Okay, so if you're using the classic style, what you do is here is you can pick a user, for example, or I can pick them from here. So there's my user. Okay, I select the role, so manager, and I add them. So this is okay if you're doing one at a time, but you might like the newer version if you're doing multiple groups of people. It's got a little more robust functionality. You can use either. The way you turn this on is if I go to Global Settings, Classic Options, there's this toggle here called Use Classic Association Entry View. So by default, most people are using the classic version, which is this version where you just add one person at a time, you select the role, and away you go. If you want to try out the new one, you just toggle this off, and you can start using it. It will apply for all people that are using that. So that's the association entry view, and we just modified the new version so it works a little nicer. And we really like to hear any feedback you have on it. I mean, there's benefits to both ways of doing it, so that's why it's optional. We're not pushing this out just yet. All right, so if I go back to my list view, and I do the advanced search, which is this button here, and I pick a date, start date, for example, you'll notice we added a bunch of new settings here. So like today, on before today, so you can see a little more robust choices for your filtering options there. All right, so here's something that it took me a little while to get my head around. So it's actually quite a good benefit. Now, if you're like me and you work on portals all the time, I come into here, I go to my user roles, and then I'd go pick my portal. All right, and that's great. And there's my portal. I can go here, and the draft portal used to be up here. Now, after this upgrade, when I click on portal, instead of the draft portal being up here and the regular portal being here, I choose which one do I want to work with. Now, one of the other things we did was, if I'm looking at my list here, I may have hundreds of roles, but I only have a few portals. So what we've done, if I go to Global Settings and Users, is we've actually added a tab here, or a new list here, where I can see just the configured portals. So now I can see all my portals in one spot. I can still get to them from the roles, but I can now see them all in one place. And the added benefit here is, let's say I want to go modify a portal. I have a portal section that I want to modify. Maybe it's a menu item, and it's called Home. I can actually do a search across all my portals to find that section. And then, oh, this is the one I want to modify here. I can jump in and start modifying it. So again, we've aggregated all the portals in one place where I can see them. I can now search them, and I can find those things I want to edit a little easier. I can still, now that I'm on the portal, I can still jump to draft portal. I can still jump to the user role. I can still go to all portals. So everything is still accessible. You just got a new way of searching and seeing all of your stuff together. Speaking of centralization, and again, this is another one I kind of like a lot. So sometimes your system will send out workflows, and there's emails in those workflows, or maybe you have email templates, and you're like, oh, how do I find that workflow that has that email in it? Well, a new way you can do this to see all of your emails in one place is, first of all, you can go to this new tab called Communications. So I went to Menu Icon, Global Settings, Communications, and we've broken this out a little bit here so that you can see email templates. And when I click on the email templates, I can see all the email templates in my system. So these are all your workflows or your other email templates you've set up. And I can see, okay, this is the workflow called Notify Administrator, and it's the task called Email. And you can see here it's a workflow email template with an acknowledgement. And if I click into it, I can see, oh, here's that email that workflow sends out. If I want to see more information on it, I can go right to the task, see all the information, and then if I want to see even more, I can go up to the workflow. So now you can see all of your email templates in one place, which I think is going to be really handy for modifying those. Again, that was under the Communications tab, Email Templates. Something else you might have noticed is the system summaries are all here. So our system summaries are nice overviews of the design of the system, the security, the performance, and we've added 2 new ones here. So I've got a new system feature summary. And the idea here is we have all these features in the system, but it's not always obvious whether you should adopt these features or how many features we have or whether you're using them. So this screen shows you, here's recommended and optional features that we have in the system. It shows you if you're using the feature or not. It gives you a bit of a description. So for example, notes. It allows you to put notes on records. And then we have a link to that setting. So if you did want to use this feature, you can click on this, and it will bring you to the general area where you could modify that. So this is my note types where I could set new notes. So that's a new summary that's there. And I hope that this will encourage people to adopt some of these newer features and, again, provide us more feedback on those. Next, I want to talk about invitations. So I'm going to go back into my UTA. And invitations are a way of inviting people to collaborate on these records with me. So I have an application here, and I'm going to go to Invitations. And here you can see I've invited someone, but I can add more people. So they don't have to be in the system at all. I can just, if I know I have a coworker or a co-applicant or maybe someone from finance and I want to have them come and collaborate on this grant application or whatever record this is, I can just put their name in, their email in, and it'll send out an email to them asking them, inviting them to collaborate and asking them to register in the system. And they'll be sent to a sign-up page, they'll register, and then they can start contributing. One of the things we've added in this upgrade is a new Resend Invite button here. So if you've invited them and for some reason they lost the email or didn't get it or went to spam, you can always resend it at any time. Okay, as long as they're in the invited stage, as long as they haven't declined or accepted, you can re-invite them. So it's a nice, easy way to send that over. So if you have permission to invite somebody, you have the permission to resend the invite email to them. Now we've made some other changes to the invitations as well. So I'm going to go into my UTA settings here. I'm going to go to the grant because that's where my invitations are on. And, oh, actually, before I do that, I want to show you one more thing. All right. So also you'll notice here we have an import. So if I wanted to import multiple people to invite them to this one application, I can do that here. Now I want to show you this. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my grant. I'm going to go, the reason why I wanted to point that out is because this upgrade we added an import for invitations here. So the first import I just showed you was if I want to import specific people to that record. But this is a new import that allows me to import multiple people to multiple records. So if you're an admin or something and you know I got these 10 reviewers I want to invite to 10 applications and they're not in the system, I could go in here and I can bulk add all those people to all those records. So that's a new import for invitations. The other thing, so here's invitation template. So I want to show you in the invitation template itself, we've added a new decline invitation notification. So I can pick individual users and say, okay, when someone declines this, if someone says, oh no, I got a conflict of interest, or I'm not interested in collaborating, we can send you anyone you decide. You can put individual users in here, and they will automatically be emailed and let them know that that's been declined, so you don't have to go back and check or anything. You can also pick people that are associated with the record, such as the owner, and say, okay, I want the owner, so maybe that's the program manager or whoever owns that record, notify them as soon as someone declines so they can go take some type of action. And of course you can define what's going to be in that email. The permissions for this is here. And if you've never used this feature before, the other thing to know about that feature is if you go to the standard fields, there's an invitations standard field here where you also have further permissions to set that up. So in this upgrade, we have deprecated the ability to create new classic reports. If you have existing classic reports, you can still continue to use them. You just can't create new or copy existing. We've done that for security reasons. You know, if you're having problems creating a report that you want some similar functionality, I encourage you to give support a call, and they can help you to show you how to use the new Neo Report Builder to do the similar things. There's group by and some other functionality that might be of use to you that you may not be aware of. So speaking of reports, we did give reports a lot of love this upgrade. Let me show you some of the things we've done. So here I am in reports. I'll go look at, oh actually, you know what? Yeah, let's go look at this one. So this is an invitations report. So I made a report, and we were just talking about the invitations feature, and in that report I can see who was invited, when they accepted, when it was updated, and I'll show you how I made that. So if I come in here, I took the invitations data set, and then you have a bunch of fields here that you can pull over. So you can report on that as well. So not only you get the declined invitation email right away if someone declines, but you can also report on it, see who's accepted, who's declined, so you can take action as well that way. And you can have records of when that all happened. So if you're used to reports, you used to see a whole bunch of tabs across the top. In this upgrade, we've put in the left navigation now, and we've kind of organized it a little better and enhanced some of the functionality. So for example, under export, under schedule export, I now can export to both a smart folder and an SFTP site at the same time, or of course configuration folder. We've added the ability to support integration keys for your SFTP here, and that's also for autoloaders. And I'll show you that in a second. So basically you can set up your credentials in one place, and then you can just pick it. So all your reports, if I've set up my username and password for my SFTP and my location, I can just pick it from this drop-down, and then if I change it in the one place, it'll change across all my reports, so I don't have to set it up individually. We still have the updating on status and trigger when you run it. We also now have the sending a notification on completion of it, and you can attach the report to the email that you send. So I can say, oh, I want, when I do a report on payments, I can CC the person in accounting and give them the attachment. Now, if you're going to do that, it also has to go into a smart folder so that they have somewhere to pull that from. We also have a new send email notification if it fails. So if for some reason the export fails, you don't have to come and check. You can get automatic email. It tells you. The ad hoc running, so I want to test out the schedule. I just want to run it once to see how it works before, instead of waiting. You can do that. And I can also clear the scheduled export. So if I try to run it and it failed for some reason, I want to rerun it, I can clear it without clearing any of my settings. And lastly, we put in this scheduled export history, so I can see how many times it ran and what happened in those times. So let me go back to this integration key. So if anyone doesn't know, if I go to Global Settings, Integrations, down here I have Integration Key Management. So this is where I would set up my integrations. So here I have an integration set up for an SFTP. I enter in all my information. Once I save it, then I can, if I'm in an autoloader or a report, I can go and I can pick this. And that means I only have to change it in one place and it updates everywhere. So that's quite handy for people using robust report functionality. All right. Now we also put in, maybe I'll use this instance instead, a new system usage report. So if I come into my global settings, and I'm going to go down here, this is a new one, system usage chart, and what this shows me is who's logging into the system. Well, it shows me how many people are logging into the system and when they're logging into the system. If I do it on this instance, which is my test instance, might be a little better. Let me change the time frame here. All right, so I can see who's logging into my sandbox here. I can zoom in and see it better. I can see who is external and who is internal. And it just gives me a better understanding of how many people are logging on at the same time and what times are my busy times. And other information like that. I can always still see people online, which just shows me who's actually logged in. But now I can see the kind of numbers and chart over time of the amount of logins I have. All right. Now, if you're a reviewer, or sometimes your internal staff may have noticed this, if I go into a UTA and let's say I'm looking at this record, maybe I go to the second or the third record in here. I'll go here. All right, so here I'll go to this record here. I'm in 2 of my list of 10. And I'm going to look at the contacts. So this is what we call a sub-list. So it's a list of stuff underneath or related to that initial level 1. And when I go into that previously, so here I go looking at this guy, and then I want to go back. It used to be that you would lose your place in your list. So if I was a reviewer, I had 10 reviews, and I start going into sub-lists, I'd lose my place. But in this upgrade, we're now remembering where you were, so you'll still get that pagination. So that's a nice, handy thing for people who are going in and through multiple records and sub-lists. Okay. Now, I love list views, and hopefully you guys do as well because they're so powerful. With the list views, we've introduced a new option, and it's called the open behavior. So what this does is I've enabled it here, and I'll show you in a second how I did that. It's totally optional, but if you want to use it, this open behavior allows you to do multiple things. So first, if I turn on the setting, open will open this record in the main window. So that's just a standard open button, opens in the main window so you can work with it. But what you'll see is when I'm hovering over it, I also have 2 new options. So this option here is open a new tab. If you've never used it before, the tab bar is a productivity enhancement that goes down here. So if I say, okay, I want to open up this in a new tab, you can see that record opens here. But I can still go back to my list. I don't lose my spot, but I get to open it full screen. And then, of course, I can do another one down here. And now I'm working on 2 records, and I can go back to my list at any time. So it's a really nice productivity feature. And the other one here is my open and modal window. So if I just want to see something quick on here, maybe make a quick edit, but I didn't really want to work with it too much, I can just open it in a modal window for a short period of time and close it. The other thing we've done, and I'm skipping ahead here, but we've also added, if you have tab bar on and you open something in a modal and you say, you know what, I want to see this bigger, I don't like this in a modal, you can click this button and boom, it's in a new tab. So any of the modals that you go to, if you don't want to work in the modal, you can always move it into a new tab if your tab bar is on. So let me go back and show you, because I'm showing all sorts of things now. Let me go back and show you how I did this. So here's my list view. This is called options, and I'm going to use the configuration of the list view to come and see how this list view is built. So here's my list view. The new setting is here. It's called open behavior. So if you decide to change the open behavior to a main window multi-options, you'll get what I just showed you. This is on a list view by list view basis. You can also choose to only have it open in the main window, force everyone to always open full screen, or you can force everyone to always open modal window. So we've given you more options on how you can have these behave. Your current list views will continue to work the way they've worked. This is optional, so if you turn it on, maybe you want to give your internal people these extra options, or maybe you want to leave it as is. But those are your options there. Yeah, actually, while I'm talking about the tab bar, for anyone who isn't aware, To turn on this tab bar, there's two things you need to do. First, there's a role permission. It's under security, so global settings security, system feature permissions, feature permission, and I just do a Control F here for tab, and there's tab bar. So tab bar, if you want to have this thing at the bottom, you can enable it by role. Say, okay, I want to give someone access to this tab bar. Once they have the role, then once they log out and log back in, they'll get this option, and it'll either say enable tab bar if it's off or disable tab bar if it's on. So I highly recommend using it for your internal staff personally, but that's how you turn that on if you've never used it. So if you're using personal dashboards, which are a really nice feature, so under my user menu here, I can see dashboards, and this is a personal dashboard that I can create for myself. So all you have to do is say new, you create a new dashboard, you can pick the layout that you want, and then you add sections, so which we call cards here, and then you can just click them. And for this chart, for example, I just picked a list view and said what I wanted to chart. And boom, I can make my own. Every user in the system can make their own if you've enabled it. And you can even share it with others. So in this upgrade, what we did is previously you could only have system list views in here, but in this upgrade, we're allowing personal list views as well. So now on your personal dashboard, if you want, you can add your own personal list view. The only caveat is that you can't share a dashboard that has personal list views. You can only share the ones that have system list views. But I do encourage you to use this, and now you can have whatever look and feel you want there using your own personal list views. Now I don't have a sample of this set up, but if you're using the assignment grid, which is a matrix of you have all your applications on the left, and then you have all of your reviewers on the top, and then you can go and set up intersections. So I want this reviewer to be a reviewer type 1, this one to be a reviewer type 2, this one to be a reviewer type 3 on your list. We've added a bulk assign button. So basically you can pick a default and say, okay, I want to assign all these reviewers in this type, and then you can modify it and then assign them all in one go. So that was just to save you a few clicks there by bulk assigning all those users. Let's look at batch update. Okay, batch update's a really powerful tool. So here I have batch update on my level 1. So I'll select a couple records, and then from my batch update, I can do things like, oh, I want to change the status of all the ones I've selected. Maybe I want to change the field values, like maybe these ones all have a certain code or an address and I want to change it. There's all sorts of things you can do with batch update. Now you could always batch update from the level 1s and from the level 2s, for example. But if I was in a record, so here I'm in a record, and then I come down into a sublist, let's say a sublist of level 2s, you previously didn't have it here. So now if you've got permission to batch update, you will be able to see the batch update on the level 2s, providing you have a level 2 type list view. So, and if you've never seen a level 2 type list view, let me just show you where that's done. So I'm going to go into my level 2s, I'll go into type. So here's my type. This is a level 2 type, and you can see I've got a list view here, and I've set up my list view. So as long as you have a list view and you have permission to have that batch update, then you will see that batch update on the level 2 sublist now. All right, notification broadcasts. Cool. So people see this notification broadcast up here typically, but I've heard from several clients that they wanted to see it a bigger message. They want to be able to put maybe some bullets in there, put a little bit more information in. So in this upgrade, what we've done, if I go to notification broadcast and I go to make a new one, we've added this setting here called maximize notification message. And if I toggle that on, then what you're going to see is the message will appear, instead of appearing small underneath that bell at the top, it'll appear big like this, and it's going to retain those carriage returns. And if I type things in here like, well, I'm going to go old school here, Alt 0149, I can get my bullets, and then I can Alt 049, and I can preserve that formatting when I send it. And the other thing we've added is you can choose For example, if I'm instance-wide, I can choose specific roles, and I can say, oh, only internal or only external as well. We've add some more settings down here to, if I want to say everyone in one role that's only internal, I can now do that. Okay. So again, I'd like to hear any feedback you guys have on this. Hopefully you enjoy the new notifications. The only caveat with this one is when you see the notification, it'll be big like this, and you have to say accept, and you'll see it all nicely formatted with the character terms. When you look at it in this view, the character terms will, it'll be all without the character terms at this point when you're looking at the full list. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a user here, and if you've never used the emulation mode, which is a wonderful mode where I can emulate this user's session, I can see what they would see as if I'm them. So I can come in here and say emulate the session, and then I log in as that person, and I see what they see. All right, so I'm going to end that session. Now when I do that, if I go to login history, I can see now that an administrator came in and emulated the system. So I emulated the user. So this time frame, I came in and I emulated that user. It's only available to system admins to see this, but now I can see that. So I mean, already you knew when this person logged in and logged out, but now I can also tell when somebody emulated them, when the system administrator came in and emulated that person. Now we're actually doing a lot of work on the criteria matching, attribute matching, and some of this ORCID stuff. We're going to talk a lot more about that in the next upgrade. But in this upgrade, we've added, if you have the integration with ORCID and you're bringing in your user's data, which is done for researchers, you can now see a nice map like this. So if you turn the profile model on, you'll see a new tab there, or you can see a map of all the funding they've received, all their publications down there. So that's a nice little add-on that's just already there in the system. And like I said, we'll talk about more about that in the next upgrade when we have a whole bunch more functionality with the profile model and the criteria matching. All right, let me talk about security. So we've added in this upgrade a new allowed file type. So this is kind of like a whitelist. So what you can do as a system administrator, and you can always do at the field level, you can say, well, I only accept these file types. Maybe I only want PDF, or I only want PNG. And you can say that at the field level. But in this upgrade, we've added a setting where your global admins can basically specify throughout the whole system, these are the only files we will accept. And so you can set that here, and we've got this button here which will put in what we recommend, but you can modify that as is. And so what that will do is that will override all of the settings, so only those files will be permissioned. So even if you go to branding, you upload something here. If you go to a record, so you go to record, and I'll go to, I've got, let me go support documents. So I've got a multi-file upload file here, and in this multi-file upload, you can see because I've set a global allowed list that they all show up here. So now, as an admin, if I want people to be uploaded, I can only choose something that's in this list or things in this list. So I can say, okay, I want them to be able to upload PDFs and zips and BMPs maybe, and that would be good. Now, if I put something here and it's not here, then the client won't be able to upload anything. So it's always going to take a most restrictive. Whatever you want to be able to upload has to either be here or this has to be empty. If you leave it empty, they can upload whatever they want. And again, it also has to be here or both of these have to be empty. So, and just to show you how it looks, so when someone's uploading files, it'll say what files they're allowed to. And so this will be a combination of your global and your field level allowed lists. Whatever the two match is what you can upload. I think last time I was in the EMEA, I had several people asking about showing charts on records. So in this upgrade, we can now show charts. We have a new field type called charts, so you can put them on your level 1s, your level 2s, your level 3s, your users, your organizations. And if I come down here, actually I want to look at a different record. Let's go this one. All right. So here I've got a new custom field called chart, and what I'm charting in this one is I'm showing the current value requested versus the average value requested for other applications like this one. Let me show you how I made this. So it's a new field type called chart. You can put that on any object you want, level 1s, 2s, 3s, people, organizations. And you pick what kind of data you want to show. Do I want to show fields on the objects or records related to the object? So in this case, I wanted a field because I want the value that's being requested. All right, and I pick which field or fields. I can pick multiple that I want to show. And I'm saying I want to compare it against the average of other records. And what other records? Well, you have a list view here to choose. So I can pick, maybe I only want to compare it with the ones the same type or in the same status or whatever criteria are. You can filter that down, that list. So it's other level 1s that are the same as this or maybe similar to this in some way. So you can set that up. And that's how I created that. The next one I have down here, what I did is I had people review this application and they all scored it. And so I wanted to see visually how that scoring went. So again, what I did here, same chart. I picked different type of chart and I picked records related to the object. Again, I picked my list view of what I want to compare it against or what I want to grab it from. And that allows me to see these reviews ranked out and displayed. And the last thing I did here is the same type of methodology, but I wanted to see a timeline. When did these things occur? So maybe these are other activities that are related, maybe they're payments, whatever it is that you want to see in a timeline, you can also render them that way. So it's just a different chart type, it's records related to it, and I showed that out. Now I'll show it to you anyway. And so now I can see it in a timeline. So special chart, it's an activity list, and I picked the start date and end date on that, and then that allowed me to chart it like this. Now there's one caveat with these, is when I create them, if I want to put them in the PDF of my application, I can do that, but I have to do it in a very specific way. So on my web page view, here I have them, and I can see there they are, and I export as PDF. And if I look down here, I can see there's my timeline and there's my reviews. So I can do it that way, but if I try to go direct to PDF or if I try to use a workflow to generate that PDF, they won't render. So we're looking into that and we'll, right now, but for now you can start using the charts, and as long as you do it this way, where you generate the web page view first and then create the PDF, you can include them in your PDFs if you wish. All right. So if you haven't noticed this, by default you would get an activity list here that would list all your level 2s. But a few upgrades ago, we gave you the ability to break these out. So my site visits are one type of level 2, and I can have it appear in a tab just like the rest of them. In this upgrade, you can also do that for your consumer provider. Now, I don't have that set up here, but I can show you how I did this one. If I go to the configuration, and I go to, oops, sorry, I believe it's the types, level 2 types. So I go to level 2 types. There's a tab here that says display as tab on the list view under the parent record. So because this is a level 2, if you toggle that on, that's what's going to display it on the left navigation. Same thing with the consumer provider. You'll get the same type of tab right there on your level 2s, or I believe your level 1s as well. All right, so you can show your consumer providers in here just like you can your level 2s in the left nav. Going back to charts, I want to show you some charts in the portals. So going to users in the new portals, instead of going my other way, I'm going to go to this portal here, and I want to preview this. So one of the things we can do now with charts, just like you used to be able to, well, you can search your list views in portals. Now you can search or filter your charts in portals. So here I've got a chart I've set up in a section. and I can say, well, maybe I only want to see what the funding was like in 2019. So I can now do that, and then I can change it back on the fly. So previously you would set up your portal section. You may have to modify that if they want to see something different. Now your users can change those chart time frames on the fly and use other search criteria. So let me show you how I did that. So this was the chart. I'm going to my chart section here. All right. Then down here, there's an option to show a search panel. So I'm in the chart type of section in my portal. I can show the search panel, and I can add whatever criteria I want, and I can move my criteria up and down. I can remove it. But I picked, I want to use the start date as my criteria, and I choose on or after. And then this is the caption right here of what gets displayed to the user. So back to portals again. I want to show you something else we did. So this is the website theme that we're looking at right now in the portal. And previously, if I wanted to pick an image shortcut, my image shortcuts always rendered like this. So I had this kind of landscape photo type view. So in this upgrade, we've added some other options. So for website theme only, if you want to show your image shortcuts like this, you can, and you can choose the background color and this and the text color. Or you can choose them like this, where it's larger. So you now have 3 options in the website theme for how to render your shortcut displays. For icons, they were always rendered like this, but again, this upgrade, the website theme, we now have a new option to show them portrait and another option to show them landscape, and it's got a nice focus state or animation on that as well. So you got some more options to make your image shortcuts and icon shortcuts look even better. Let me show you how I did that. So here I am in the portal, and oh, that's the default one. All right, and let me go up one level here. So here I am. I'm on the Shortcuts tab, and I've chosen my theme website. So that's important. It has to be on a website theme if you want to have images and icons rendered that way. And then once I go into my subsection here, I can choose. Do I want default, which would be the way it always renders now, or do I want one of the new alternates? And to help you out, we've added this image tooltip here, which shows you what they look like. And we're trying to add these tooltips all over the system now to give you a little more help, because sometimes it's hard to explain what something's going to happen with just a word or 2 words in a drop-down. So keep an eye out for these image shortcuts. All right. So in Listviews, while I'm in here, let me show you. All right, let me show you something else. So in Listviews, we've added a new ability to include a column of data in the list view, but not show it. So for example here, I've got a list of volunteers, and these volunteers have a lot of skills. So, but I didn't want to show the skills in the list view. I just wanted to show these people. Now you can use this for other scenarios as well, but what we've done is I actually have a column here called skills that lists all their skills. But instead of showing it, I've hidden it. And then on the search here, I've actually put it in. So we'll have skills of computers and design, and then I search, and then it filters my list. So you can basically filter your list on unseen criteria, even though it's in the list view. So let me show you how I did that. It was the same way, and I can, of course, clear the search and bring it back. It was the same way I did the other search. So here's my search. I basically show search panel, and then I picked what I want to be able to search on. And this is and you can do this also in the regular UTA, not just in the portals. So let me go show you that that list view, because I'll show you the list view. Actually, I can go from here. I'll open the list view from there. All right, so here's my list view, and I actually want to open a new tab. I'll use that. So here's my list view. And on my list view, if I go to the columns, I can see I added this column called skills, and I said I want to hide the column. So it's there, but it's hidden. and that way I can use it to sort on, I could use it to search on, but you don't have to display it. So if it's something that's a lot of data in it you don't want to display, but you still want to search on it, you can do it this way. And if you have questions, just make sure you toss them in the chat, and we will answer every question at the end. Filtering for list views. We talked about reports. Oh, I did forget about this one. So on reports, so previously, what I would do is a lot of times I give people a report manager property or permission, but the problem with that was then they could edit everyone's report. So in this upgrade, if you didn't notice it, there's permissions now. So I can basically say on a report by report basis which reports I want certain roles to view and which reports I want certain roles to view. So I can say, okay, role A can only edit these 3 reports, but not the rest, even though I can let them view the rest. So you've got more robust permissioning around who can view and edit those reports now. So you don't have to give out report manager so often as a permission. Oh, for our European friends, we've got the NACE codes. So let me show you how that works. So NACE codes, in case you're not aware, they are a statistical classification for economic activities. And so here's an example of the new NACE code. It's a new custom field. I can go in here and I can search for what I want. All these will translate into the various languages that are supported. And I can pick something and say I want this one. I say, yeah, that's the one I want. I click it, it shows up. And I can pick multiples. So if I fall into multiple categories, I can say, yeah, I want that. So there's my multiple categories. And like I said, it all translates. And that's a new custom field called NACE code. All right. So now that we're back in line, okay. If you haven't used before the grid list view, as I was talking about here, so this is the grid list view. So you can see I have a normal list view, but if I want something with a little more appeal to it, I can choose some different types of grid list views. So I can show this information in different ways. And this isn't a new feature, but not everyone will know about it. The one thing we did, let me go and take a look at this so I can show you. So if you choose to do this type of a list view, instead of using a regular list, you choose grid, and then you can choose the style of the grid list view you want, and you can pick an image. Now, previously you could only pick images from your level, but now you can pick images from parent levels. So if I have a level 2 and I have an image on a parent record, like the program has an image and I'm on a call, I can point to that image and use that image every time. So I don't have to always upload it to the level 2 if that's what I'm using. So that's a small thing, but a nice thing. One of the other things we've done is, so for example, here I've got my instance, but if I went in here, and because I'm on a hosted shared, I can type in DK, and then that will bring me to the backup version of my site. And when I go in there, I'll see this bar that says, hey, this is my backup. So I know I'm not on the live instance, but I can go, I can make some changes here, I can test some things here, and if I liked it, I can go and apply it to my live instance. So with your backup instance, we've added a new, well, I don't know if it's a new setting, but it's certainly, we have a setting now, and I believe it is under feature permission. Let me just double check. Yes. So we've made this a setting, which I encourage you to use, to restrict login backup to specific roles. So what I can say here is I only want maybe my program manager, or I only want my global, my system admins. I can choose to restrict it so that way any applicants can't go and log into your backup. Right? You can always relax when you're testing if you want, but you can control who has access to your backup system. And even though they're a valid user with a valid login and password, you can prevent them from logging into your backup if you choose. So let me show you what that was again. It was global settings, security, system feature permissions, and then again I just do Control F to find it because it's faster on this page. Restrict login to backup environment to these roles. So I highly recommend, if you haven't already, you may want to not allow your applicants and certain roles to be able to access your backup. Not everyone knows they have backup, but it's just a good safe practice. All right, if you're using versioning, so let me see if I have versioning on this one. I do have versioning. All right, perfect. So if you're using versioning, you can see I've got what's called a core field set, and I have other versions. The way versioning is, what it does is it takes a snapshot of your instance, so I can see what my form looks like at this time. And then later when I make changes, I can take another snapshot of it. And people who are working on, say, last year's version of the form will continue to get last year's version of the form, and people on this year's version of the form will get this year's version of the form. And you can keep that going all the way. So one of the things that we've changed with it, though, is when you add any field to your versions, you should first add that field to the core field set. The core field set is basically, it's like your master. So everything should always be on the core field set, and then from there you can promote it to the different versions. So if you wanted to make a new field, and even if you only want it to appear in 1 or 2 versions, you make it first on the core field set, and I'll show you that right now. So with grant, I go custom fields, and so I make a new field here. So it's just I made a field, and then so here's a field. So I'll say I made this field, and then if I click on this, I can say, okay, I want to copy this to other versions, and then I have a choice. It's like, oh, I only want this to go to here, or I want to go to these ones. Maybe I want to go to all of them, and then I can update. So that way you have control over when you create new fields, which version you want to send it to, or even if I make a change on something, maybe I make a change and I only want to apply it to the latest version, then I would do that. And that way the change is here, and the change gets sent to that version I want, but the other versions are left unchanged. So previously you could create them on the versions, but we've restricted that ability now because you're really supposed to be creating it on the core field set. Oh, here's another exciting thing about portals. So we're always trying to make our portals easier to use, better looking. And so as our next step toward that goal, we introduced portal themes. So last upgrade, if you were on the webinar with me, you saw we allowed you to be able to edit things on some of the text on the fly. This upgrade, we've included some templates to show you how to do that. And the next upgrade, we're going to go even further, making it even easier to just click on things to change images and that type of thing. So let me show you. First how these look. So again, just to start this off, we've put 4 new templates in there. So here's one that you can come in. Here's another. And basically they're pre-populated with images and text, and then you can come in and you can just change that text. So I can say, oh, I want to change that text. I navigate away, and that'll save. So let me show you. Here's another one we did. And of course, I can just change this to the variables that I want. I can add extra boxes if I want. I can change my list views, my charts, my shortcuts, etc. So again, we're moving closer and closer to making these easier and easier to build and modify. So let me show you how I did it. So here I've got a portal, and here's the home page. Let me go back. I'll grab this from here. I'll just do this one. Okay, so if your portal section is the theme of website, and these are only available on website currently, and I'll just show you. So by default, you won't see it. You still see, if you ever want to make a layout, you can pick a layout, but you won't see the new options. To see the new options, you have to move to website theme, and then you'll see this. You've got an add template. And when we click the add template, you can say, here's the 4 new templates that we just added. So you can pick one. So for example, I want this, and it's going to say, oh, if you want it, it's going to delete whatever's here and replace it. I was fine with that, so I said okay, and now it's created those things. So I could save it. If I go back and I preview it, I can see, oops, there's my sample I just did. It's populated my image and my text, and it's given me an area for shortcuts. And then from there, what I would do, I go into my sample, I can go into shortcuts, and I would pick the shortcut that I want, so from my list. and then I've got that page already set up. Now, if I wanted to modify it, as I showed you, you can modify it in the preview, but if you really want to get technical, I can come into the text here. I can change around some of this text. I can go into the display here. I can put up a different image. So anyway, it's just another way to play with some of the new templates that we've done and make it a little easier to do certain things with your portals. I think I mentioned integration keys already, so I won't go into that. But I will talk about advanced data tables. So I know we've been talking a lot about Excel parser, and I'll talk about that another time, but I'm going to talk about advanced data table. A lot of people have advanced data tables, which used to be known as XMLs, and we use those to make budgets like this. So I would click this, I have a budget I can fill in, and we made a few changes to this upgrade. First of all, we can now specify the title and the instructions in the section itself. Sorry, this title right here. This title, no, that title, and these instructions in the sections themselves. So previously you would have put them, let me open up the field. Previously you would have put them in the template itself, but now I can just call the section, and inside that section, I'm going to go into the section builder here. Inside that section, here is my section. You can see we now have section titles there, section instructions are there, so I don't have to put those in the template itself. The other thing we did is we have permissions now on the sections. So it used to be if I wanted to make one advanced data table, and maybe I wanted 3 different things that I want people to fill in here. Okay, I have 3 different things I want to fill in, but the next type I had 4 different things I want them to fill in. I'd have to create 2 separate fields for that, or I'd have to use SS Logic with some fancy CSS to show and hide it. So now you can just use that permissions to say, okay, if this is a type 1 application, I don't show revenues. Maybe I show something else. Whereas type 2, I do show revenues, and maybe I show something in addition. So you can have one advanced data table and use permissioning to show or hide the different sections that I want to show, so I don't have to have so many advanced data tables. So that's quite cool if you're using those, that you now have robust visibility without having to resort to SS Logic or CSS. And of course you can have instructions now, right on the sections. Okay, for our clients, our partners out there really that make new instances for clients, I'm just going to show you this here. Sorry, my apologies. Okay, so for clients that are making new instances for their clients, I'm going to go to Global Settings and show you. When we create a brand new instance for our clients, we go to Licensing, and we have a whole bunch of settings here. One thing we added this time is the activation email. So if for some reason the email didn't make it through to somebody when you create the brand new instance, you can go there and you can check and you can see the email that was sent out. You can see what the username and password was for the first user of that system. So if you're a partner or someone who's creating instances for your clients, you now can see that in case that email gets lost. And lastly, privacy policies. All right, let's talk about privacy. So if I click here, I got a privacy policy, and I can click to see my privacy policy. Of course, I can print it. I can see all of my policies, and that is set up under Global Settings, Security, Privacy, and Security Policies. All right, and the policy is dictated by where I'm located and the language I speak. Okay, so here is a policy. Now previously you had a name for your policy and that name would show up on the policy. In this upgrade, we've also added the ability to have a caption. So I can have a different name, so I could call this like policy 55312 or whatever my internal people need for the name and not expose that to the client. Instead I can use this. But what I can do, once I do that, the caption will be used, not the field name is what will be displayed to the client. So client will only see the caption, they won't see the field name. But when I go to report on this, So if I go into reports, and privacy policies, so here I've got a privacy policy where I can report, and so I can see I logged in, when I logged in, when I accepted it, what the name of it, the caption was, and what the field name was. And so I can report on that here. And the way I did that is, for my data set, I picked privacy and security policies, audit, and then I've got a whole bunch of fields related to that. So if you're using reporting for that, you can do that there. There's also, if you're not already aware, if I look at a policy itself, I can view the log, I can search who accepted that log, and see that stuff, and I can look at the PDFs of them, so I can already find out who has accepted each policy and when. But you've got those two methodologies for figuring all that out and reporting on that. All right, so that was the run-through I was going to do. So what I want to do next is I want to open up the floor for all the questions, anything that maybe went too fast, anything that you just want clarification on, etc. So I want to turn it back to Sarah, who's going to read out the questions to me, and then I'll do my best to either answer you now or shortly after this webinar. So Sarah, over to you.
Thanks so much, Mark. All right, so for our first question, we build all our portals using the common. It looks like you need to build them by user to apply different themes. Which is the best way, user portals or common portals?
Oh, my preference is the common portal personally, but let me show you. You can apply the themes. Let me show you. Let me just show you here. It's easier to show than to tell. So I go to portals, I go into common. Each menu item, so in the sections, let me just. So each menu item, you can pick a theme for. So you don't have to have them on roles. You can do them all in common. It's the menu items themselves where you say this. So what a menu item is they are the things that appear up here at the top. So those are the menu items, and that's where you specify it. So it doesn't matter if you're on common or on if you're on these. Because you specify it on the main menu links. So I'm going back in. So it's these main menu links is where you specify it. So as long as your main menu link has got it, and what you can do is you can just have a different main menu link for each role if you need, and then that way you can change it per menu item. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, you can just reach out to us and we can clarify a little further.
New Listview configuration option to define open behavior. How do I turn on this feature?
Oh, perfect. So if I come here, and I'm going to go to options, and what I'm going to do, so this is the behavior here. If I go to the list view that I want, and I scroll down, there is, open behavior is right here at the bottom. So this is where I pick main, or that's the one I want. Main, window, and multi-options is the one I'm showing you. So just show that one more time because I got a little confused myself. So this is my list view that I want, the desired list view. I click on the configuration for that list view. I scroll to the very bottom, and there's an open behavior here. In the drop-down, I can just change it to what I want. I believe by default everyone's main window, but you can change it to main window and multi-options. And of course, if you can also get to your list views if I go into configuration settings. So grant, for example, list views. Here's all my list views. And of course, I can just go in, do the same thing at the bottom, just change it for each of the ones that I want. And just another note on that, if you don't have tab bar enabled, you won't see the tab button. So it's smart enough to know that as well. Likewise, if I open things in Modal windows, if you don't have tab bar on, you won't see this button that allows you to open up the tab bar. Okay?
So right now it looks like that's all the photos. Or all the photos, sorry, all the questions.
All right, cool.
So if anybody does have any further questions though, please feel free to reach out to support@smartsimple.com. They'd be happy to answer any more questions. Like I said earlier, we will be sending out a recording of this webinar. And yeah, we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you all.